Hi everyone, Alice Psych here. I have a video for you today for informational purposes only on a book called Thanks, How the New Science of Gratitude Can Make You Happier. This is by Robert A. Emmons back in 2007. So I'll go over what I think are some of the gems, and of course I'll add my 2 cents as well. So if you want to get the pure version, you're going to have to read the book. A lot of the information will be paraphrasing and actual quotes. So, okay, the author says gratitude is acknowledgement of goodness in one's life, and it's also recognizing that the source of this goodness lies at least partially outside the self. Okay, so it's not just something that's self-sustained. It implies a recognition that it's possible for other forces to act toward us with beneficial, selfless motives. Okay. Now, being grateful is an acknowledgement that there are good and enjoyable things in the world. So if we ever get stuck with that ruminating about the world is bad or stinks or whatever, this is one way to counteract that. Sometimes gratitude triggers the recognition that I needed or need assistance, which can be an issue for some. This is, acknowledging dependency, maybe feeling a sense of debt. I owe even though there are no strings attached to, what was given me. And I always kind of hate having that little sense of debt or owing. Now, the author mentioned that Aristotle thought gratitude was a weakness. He found gratitude incompatible with magnanimity, which magnanimous people, according to Aristotle, insist on their self-sufficiency. Now, in my mind, I don't see things in life as, so black and white. I think most people can look back and count a number of people that have helped them, parents, teachers, friends, the government, whoever. So usually there is some assistance, along the way. Now, when we're grateful, we're more likely to notice positive parts of our lives and consequently remember more positive and consequently remember more positive parts of our lives. And in my mind, again, this kind of sounds like being able to deal with depression. Now, in terms of journal, writing gratitude journals, so what's written in journals needs to be varied so the activity does not get stale or boring if you're using a gratitude journal. And again, in my mind, I'm thinking, if you're an adult, maybe you have kids, doing this activity as a parent in front of children would be really beneficial for the children later in life. So we'll be modeling for the children this sense of gratitude. So the children can, just by osmosis almost, pick up this sense of gratitude as well. It just becomes, part of life. Now, the author references the nun study that was published in 2001, in which nuns who wrote in their autobiographies with the most positive emotional words lived much longer than the nuns that used the fewest positive emotional words. Now, again, in my estimation, you don't have to be a nun or believe in God to reap the benefits of using positive emotional words. Okay. I think you'll still live longer if you're doing that. Now, this is kind of interesting. He mentioned that you can't be grateful and resentful at the same time. So if you're working on your gratitude, your resentment of issues is going to be pushed aside, at least for that time. And I kind of liken this to uh, relaxing yourself during times of anxiety, because you can't be, completely relaxed and anxious at the same time. So I thought that was kind of interesting. As humans, we have this negativity bias. I've done a video on this. We're kind of wired to see the negative, kind of like something that was um, born in us to protect us against dangers, you know, from dinosaurs or whatever, animals thousands of years ago, not dinosaurs. And so gratitude exercises is one way to deal with this bias. Now, one thing about gratitude is really appreciating. I'll speak from the I sense, so it's really appreciating what I have, as opposed to getting caught up in wanting what my neighbors have. And let's face it, there's always going to be somebody that has something that I don't have. So if I always want what the neighbors have, it's really kind of a recipe for discontentment. I'm always going to be trying to get something else. Another interesting point that I think is important. It's easy to be grateful when things are going well. It's much more of a challenge to be grateful when things are not going so well. Yet there are, numerous examples of people that have gone through some severe adversity and still find a way to be grateful. And you can think of the people that have lost their homes in hurricanes, and yet they're still talking on camera about how they're so grateful to be alive, or war veterans that have maybe lost a limb, but then are so grateful that they've met other veterans in the similar position, to where they've established incredible bonds with these people that they never would have if they hadn't lost the limb in the first place. And you can just keep on going with examples. The people when they lose a parent maybe are still so grateful for the fact that they actually had that parent in their lives. So those are kind of examples that I think can be used. And again, I'm sure you can expand that list of examples. Now, interesting side note. I went to a seminar years ago, and I remember the speaker of the seminar mentioned how he would often take vacations and go to some of the worst places that you would never want to go to, for a few days. That was just it was just, a lousy vacation, but it was, so when he came back home, he would be much more grateful about where he was living, because it's so easy to get just complacent and forget about, what we have around us. And I try to make sure, like I love to go to the beach, and I don't know how many hundreds of times I've seen dolphins swimming in the water, jumping out of the water, but I still really enjoy it. It never gets old for me. And if I ever catch myself getting a little complacent, I remind myself, look, you're really lucky to be seeing what I'm seeing right now. Okay, let's wrap this up. So the author suggests three things. He suggests a gratitude journal, and I think you're going to have to kind of make the determination as to how frequently you write in the journal. Sometimes it can get a little boring and redundant if you're doing it every day. So, maybe it's once a week on the same day. And the idea is, you have that routine established, and it doesn't have to be, something big. It can be something small as well. Number two is remembering the bad. Now, he doesn't mean that you should be remembering the bad and ruminating about bad things, but it's it helps you put things in perspective. And then I think when you then are grateful for something small, it kind of really means something. Um, Now, things do not have to be, humongous in nature to be grateful for them. They can be small little things. Okay. And then finally, number three, using the right words. Not getting caught up in awfulizing, as Albert Ellis would say, but using more positive, or at least neutral words as opposed to awfulizing type words. And I think I've got a video on awfulizing and catastrophizing, a la Albert Ellis and rational emotive therapy. Okay, and that is a wrap up of the book called Thanks. And again, those are just the highlights. There's a lot more information in there. Thanks.